Hi, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh everyone. My name is Hawa Charfaray, originally out of South Africa but living out of the UAE. When people ask me who I am, I don't associate myself as just one individual. I associate myself aligned to many people who surround me, who actually make who I am. Yes, I'm an individual, but I also believe that I cannot be on an island because people impact you just as much as you impact others. Firstly, I was very much impacted to who I am by my family, my loving children, my beloved husband, my very dear friends, and most importantly by myself and my inner peace of who and what I say to myself. So when people ask me again who I am because of others, and I am because of what I think of myself. So many people actually point out and say to me, Hawa, you seem to be a force to be reckoned with. As much as I'd like to be a force to be reckoned with, I do not believe totally that women should actually be put in the circumstances under a negative connotation of reckoning with. Because when we do that, we're already aligning ourselves very negatively, number one. And number two, we come across as being aggressive. I would rather say that I'm definitely a force to be aligned with because of certain relationships. And when I say I'm a force to be aligned with, don't get me wrong to say that we have to be naive in what we do and we have to align ourselves with everyone. I'm also a force in terms of I know when to walk away when things don't work. I know when to walk away from relationships that do not serve me. I walk towards relationships that serves me extremely well. So when people also ask me what do I do in terms of who I am, I actually say think about a computer system. And when you think about a computer system, when you upload programs on a computer system, it is there, but how many of you actually use all the programs that's on your computers? How many of you actually use all the programs that is on your laptops and on your iPads or even on your telephones or your cell phones? The same thing is you would offload and unload things that do not serve you to make space, and rather only upload things that do serve you in order to serve yourself and in order to serve others. So when we talk about a force to be reckoning with, it's about a force that is aligned with, but making sure it is what you know and what you want to do in life. Because when you know that, you will then align with the right people in life as well. So early on I spoke about aligning yourself with others and aligning yourself in terms of business and in terms of relationships. But firstly, it's very important to identify your alignment within yourself. Ladies and gents, I have to tell you that it's taken me ages to be able to get to the point that I am today, and I'm still learning as I go along. But the point is that going through many challenges as a woman of my age, and yes, I'm very happy and vulnerable to say that I'm 52 years old, and reaching that point in life, I've had many challenges, but I've also had many wonderful experiences in life. But if I look at some of the challenges, there are financial challenges, there are challenges with regards to having children, there are challenges with regards to having children that are not well, and having had 3 beautiful and amazing children who has passed on due to illnesses. One was 2 years old, I've lost a 7-year-old, and I've lost an 8-year-old. But having gone through those challenges, what makes me align myself firstly to myself is somebody had to ask me a very pertinent question in life and said, Hawa, when I cried and I said, why me? Because that is about alignment to myself. When that question hit me, and many times I asked myself, why me? Somebody very important in my life, a very close friend, a confidant, and a best friend, once asked me, why not you? And when I actually thought about that, and he actually said, Hawa, when you say why not you, is do you wish it on a family member? Do you wish this on a friend? Do you wish this on anyone else? And I said, no, I don't. And he said, so why not you? You were chosen to be able to go through this because there were certain things that you needed to learn. And that statement hit me straight in the face, because every challenge that I've had to go through in life, I have had learning experiences through them. For example, with my children, I have learned patience. I have learned acceptance. I have learned gratitude. because having to look at a child that could not smile, that could not sit, could not talk, and look at me every morning and having to say, "Mum, I'm hungry," but could not say it. But all they could do was just smile at me and look at me, and I could understand. That is gratitude. One day I was very ill with a fever, and I thought to myself, "Oh, I feel so sick." But when I looked at my son and my daughter, who would run a fever at almost 40 degrees at times when they were having a temperature, and when I went to their bedside, they still had a smile on their face. How can we not be grateful in our life for what we have when we can see that there are people and children that are suffering more? So when I look at those kids, I have learned gratitude. Yes, they have come through my life. They've passed through in my life. For whatever reason they've been put here, but what they have, I believe, is to teach me gratitude, to teach me patience, to teach me that no matter what challenge there is, you can still smile. You can still bring a smile to others, and you can help others. And those are some of the learnings that I've had from that challenge. Then, of course, we talk about the challenge of finance, the challenge of business. Ladies, a lot of the women say that we cannot have it all. They say we either choose our family or we choose our career. And I say to you very, very confidently that yes, you can. I have learned that through having children that are physically challenged, mentally challenged, through having financial difficulties, I could still find a way and negotiate a way to be able to have it all. So when I talk about negotiation, I have two trays in my life. I have a negotiable tray and I have a non-negotiable tray. And every day I ask myself what is negotiable, and I put it into that tray. And the things that are non-negotiable goes into the non-negotiable tray. So what is negotiable? Rather, let me start with what's non-negotiable. Non-negotiable is time with my family. Non-negotiable is time with my friends. Non-negotiable is creating a strategy for life. Non-negotiable is creating a strategy for business. Those are non-negotiables. Those are the things that you say no to. You say no to other things that impacts that. So what is negotiable? Yes, I want to spend time with my family, but I also have a career, right? So what's negotiable? Negotiating support to help me when I need to go for my job, when I need to go for work or meetings. Negotiate support with your network, because you have a network. Don't feel afraid to make yourself vulnerable and say, "Hey, I need help." We as women constantly say, "No, I can do this. I can do this by myself." Ladies, you cannot have it all if you decide to do it by yourself. As I've mentioned earlier, we're not an island on our own. We have to be able to negotiate time to be able to do everything. Negotiate with you need a weekend away, a love weekend or a passionate weekend with your spouse. Negotiate that with a friend to say, "Hey, can you look after my kids just for this weekend?" Negotiate it with a parent, with the grandparent. Negotiate it with a helper. You might say there aren't many family members that is not able to. Negotiate it with them. Go and negotiate it with your boss if you have to. And I hate to say bosses, but the leaders in life that might be there who overlooks you. Negotiate time away from them. So decide every day when you wake up, what goes into your negotiable tray, what goes into your non-negotiable. The things that are negotiable, negotiate. Find a support network and learn how to, if you don't know how to negotiate, learn how to negotiate. Go on courses, read books about it. Develop yourself on negotiation. Don't say, "I don't know how to negotiate." Assertiveness comes from within yourself. Learn it and then do it. The things that are non-negotiable, what I've learned is I've learned to say no. And I promise you, those of you who know me, it was very hard to say no. I overextend myself, which will later come out in my health issues. I overextend myself. I try and do for everyone everything that I could do by putting myself last. I have learned the hard way because it impacted my health. It impacted my mindset. It impacted relationships. It impacted who I was because I wasn't being true to myself. So I had to learn to say no. It might feel like a simple task for some because everyone says just say no. It's not that easy for someone who always put others first besides themselves. So learn to say no. And when you say no, don't say it by being aggressive. Somebody asks you for something, no, I can't do that. That's aggressive. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. So things that are non-negotiable. Say, I'd love to go out with you tonight, but you know what? I've made personal plans just for myself to sit in front of a TV, take a good blanket with a good packet of popcorn, and have a wonderful evening by myself. So just learn to say no. It took time for me to do that, but when I did, I had learned to be able to deal with everything that I needed to be able to deal with. And that I've just learned in the last 6 months. I've learned to say no. So yes, 52 years later, there's still so much to learn. And although I always taught people how to say no, I had to face reality when I got very sick and very ill, and I had to learn to say no. And I did that in the last 6 months after being 52 years on this earth. One of the biggest pressures that we have as women is, in fact, there are not one, there are many. We have the pressure of people saying that women are multitaskers. We have the pressure of saying that women should be able to manage everything by themselves. They need to be a housewife. They need to be able to cook. They need to look after children. They need to have a career. Or rather, let me rephrase that. Nobody says that we need to do this. We impose those pressures on ourselves. We believe that there's this guilt trip that we need to go under, that if I am a career woman, I've got to do everything else at home. My point that I want to make, ladies and gents, is that I've learned through my own time that the pressure comes from within us. There's a time that we are able to be vulnerable and say that we cannot do this. We need to be able to stop. And it took a long time for me to understand that. But when I did, it was freedom from, I cannot even explain where that freedom actually came from. Because it was at that point that I actually said, I can be vulnerable. It's okay to have a sleep day. It's okay to have what I call a jammy day. It's okay to be able to cry your heart out. And I promise you, ladies and gents, in the last 12 to 13 months, I have had more than one occasion where I've had jammy days. There was one occasion that I've had days where I cried my heart out, because it was the only time that I could actually be vulnerable. The pressure I put on myself in the last odd years, while I was becoming a career woman, while having children that were physically and mentally challenged, that were in wheelchairs, where I had to feed them through gastrostomy tubes, where they could not even taste their food, and having to be strong for one, and then the second one was born, having to have lost them at the ages of 2, at the age, my daughter was at the age of 8, and having to lose my last son at the age of 7. And then just thinking that I'm okay, because now I put the pressure on myself that I have to be okay for the next child and the next and the next. And once that phase passed, it was then, okay, I just have my beloved husband, I have him. So I now need to be strong for him, and I need to be strong for myself. So another pressure. And I needed to be strong for the people around me who loved my children so much. So again, you put on this beautiful mask, which I did. It was a lovely mask that I wore on my face for many years. Until one day, reality hit. And the one person that I was putting this mask on for was my beloved husband. And he left. Not out of choice. The Almighty had taken him. But the learning from that was, the pressure was not from him. The pressure was not from anyone. The pressure was from within myself. It was then that I learned to become vulnerable. It was then that I went in hiding. It was then that the hiding wasn't from others, but rather from the reality of the pressure that I kept putting on myself. And when that got lifted, it was like I had to learn to be able to live and be by myself and for myself. So when that pressure and reality hits you, it's a little too late for some. And I'm hoping that was never too late for me. And I think with the love and support from family, and like I said, you negotiate that support network. And as you negotiated that network, it made me realize that it's okay for us to be vulnerable. It's okay for us to be able to let go of some of those pressures, because the pressure is not from others, the pressure is from within ourselves. So my message to you today is, don't wait like I did. And even if you did, it's never too late. You can, because I'm learning as I go. And I'm not saying that I've overcome it. Yes, it's taking me every single day to learn and to become better. But every day and every step that you take is one step forward. And yes, for every step forward you take, there are going to be 10 steps back, because today I've taken one step, and I promise you tomorrow I've taken 10 steps back. So it might take you longer, but you will get there. Because if I can, and I know that you will. When you are struggling and you can't manage, because yes, it's okay for people to say, be strong. It's okay for people to say, don't worry, you'll get past this. I promise you, you will not get past this. There are times that I feel that people will tell you that it gets better. It does not get better. All that happens is that you find coping mechanisms to make it better. And the coping mechanisms for me, ladies and gents, was to ask for help. Find a coach. I'm a coach. I'm a life coach myself. I'm a qualified NLP practitioner, but yet I myself need a coach. Find a coach who's going to be able to help you. Find a coach who's going to help you deal with the emotions and the trauma that you're going through. We all say, and we want to be strong, but I promise you, when life hits you and when things really get hard, there are times you cannot do it yourself. We need to face reality that we're not on an island. We need the help. We need the support. I went for coaching. I went to go and deal with some of those demons that were in the past. And sometimes it's not about what you're going through now. What I've learned is that some of the challenges I went through when I lost my last son, there were no other kids. And I thought, what do I do now? My whole life evolved around them. And it was then that was the very first time that I actually went through a bit of depression. So when I lost my first son, I was 22. I was 22 years old, and I was 23 actually when I lost him. Immediately I said, no, I'm picking myself up and I'm moving on, because I know that I've got a life ahead of me. I went on and I moved on, and I had a daughter. When I had my daughter and she passed away, I had my son. And it was from one to the other. So I never really confronted the demons that was inside to be able to manage and deal with this. I just went one from the other. But when I lost my last son, there was nothing else to look forward to besides, of course, my relationship with my amazing husband and family. And that is when I broke. And I found that it wasn't about the son that I've lost. It was not about the daughter that I lost. It was not even about my first son that I lost. It was far beyond from things that might have happened in my past, in my relationships with others, in my growing up as an individual. There are certain things that will come out in your coaching. There is a process that women go through, and not just women but men as well, that we don't realize. You see, what happens is we have an unconscious body that is there to serve and protect you. It will do everything to serve and protect you. So when something comes up that doesn't make you feel good, what happens is your unconscious mind says, Hawa, you cannot deal with this. It takes it and it stores it and it puts it back into your body. And what happens is it finds the weakest spot in your body. So for me, it found it in my joints. I've had 3 operations on my knees because I did not deal with the emotion trauma that I was going through. Every time I went from one to the other. And I didn't realize the 4th time I needed to go for an op, and that's when I realized, which is a good few years later, however, this is not about your knee. It is not about your joints. This is about trauma that is taking it and putting it and storing it inside your body. But when I let go of that, through coaching, through mentoring, through actually sitting and looking back at my past and say, what is it that I need to let go of? Remember that programming I talk about? It's about, unprogramming some of the things that you keep telling yourself from the time you were 2 years old, 3 years old, 5 years old, and for some, even before they were born. For some, it was even before, while they were in the womb of their mum. And it was about dealing with those things first before you can move on to the other. So it's a little link. If you let go of the first link, the next and the next and the next. But once you let go of each one of those, you will actually find that the chain breaks, and that's when you become free. So don't think, ladies and gents, that it's only about today. There's a process of what we call imago. And imago is image of. So when you are dealing with any situation today, if you are having an argument with your leader and your boss, don't think the way you react is not about what's happening now. It's only 20% about what's happening now. Imago is image of who you are and what you've been through, which means it's 80% of what you've been through that allows you to react the way you are. Why is it that some person who's having a conflict, whether it be a conflict with their spouse, with their children, with their leaders in business, why is it that some will flare up and get angry and aggressive and shout and scream, or even just road rage? Why is it that some people can go calmly past that past someone who irritates them on the road, and someone who will stop and go through road rage? It's because of imago. It is because only 20% of what's happening now is about what is now. If 80% of your life has these links that have not been resolved, then it is that part of it that comes out in that moment in time. It's not about now. So what I say to you is, and I learned that the hard way, is I kept it in and kept it in and kept it in, until, of course, the last straw now was after the loss of my 3 children, living very comfortably, going through financial challenges, and then, of course, losing the most important person in my life, my best friend, my confidant. And that's when I realized that I have not dealt with any of that in the past. So although, yes, I thought I had 100%, it was the loss of the last one that made me realize there's a lot more healing to be done. So before you start getting very sick physically because of the emotional trauma, find help, and it's okay to ask for help. You know, in the last 12 months since I've lost my beloved Abdul Rashid, it's been a huge eye-opener. I've always believed that I was a very independent woman. I believed that I manage life through my children, manage life through a business, building a business, going international, aligning myself with large organizations and corporates, and I always believed that I was independent. And when Rashid passed away, I actually realized that I might have been independent on a lot of fronts that we have, but there was a lot of dependency as well. You know, there's a Swami Parthasamy, who actually gave a lecture, and after listening to his lecture, I actually started researching more about attachments. And the one thing and vision that I've learned, and a message that I want to start to engrave and work with women particularly, is that we have so many attachments in life that we forget to, or we unlearn how to actually be alone. We are born very much by ourselves, although we are born through our mum and we are born through how Almighty brings us into this world. But in all that time, 9 months that you were in the womb, you were actually very much alone in the womb, and you were very content in the womb. The moment we are born into this world, we have expectations and we have attachments. So there were many times that I hear people say, and I used to say this as well, I will be happy when. I will be happy when I get married. I will be happy when I have children. I will be happy when the children grow up, because we have them and then we can't wait for them to grow up. I will be happy when they leave home and they're married and they're settled. I will be happy when they have grandchildren. The problem is, when are we actually happy? Because we keep saying, I'll be happy when. And we have attachments to this. And what I've learned, that if you are happy as is without an attachment, then you will, when that attachment is taken away from you, you will still learn to be happy. I have found that I always thought my happiness was always around the relationship that I had. My happiness was always because of the support in the relationship that I had. And not just happiness. Happiness is just an example. I talk about my confidence. I'm confident because I know I have someone beside me. I'm confident and loved because there is somebody who loves me in return. There is someone who put me first before everything else. Those of you who know me and who's been through my seminars and who's been through my work that I do always know there was somebody always standing beside me. and that was my beloved Rashid. And when he was gone and taken by the Almighty because it was good for him, and I know that there's a reason which is good for me too, and I accept and I'm grateful for that. But I then realized that a lot of the things that I was reliant on was because of the attachment. And there's something that he taught me which I didn't listen while he was alive, but I now understand it, and that is, be content with who you are without anyone on your side. Because attachment should only be, what his words, and I quote, to the Almighty, because that is what's consistent. Everything else in this world is inconsistent. Your children, your time with them is inconsistent. Your business is inconsistent. Amount of money you earn is inconsistent because it changes. It's rapidly changing. Today you are a billionaire. Tomorrow you start up again because things happen. Today you are married. Tomorrow you are widowed. Today you have children. Tomorrow those children are grown up and gone out of the house. The one thing that is consistent is your belief in whatever it is. If you are religious, like I am, it's my belief in the Almighty, because I know that's one thing that's consistent is one day I will return to Him. One thing that is consistent is one day I will be reunited with my family in Jannah, in heaven, inshallah. That is consistent. But the others are all inconsistent. So when you are attached to the things in this world, money, your children, your family, your friends, and everything around you, then that's when happiness will never occur, because you are constantly looking for happiness. And on that point, if I can just end on the story, there was a king who one day said, I can give you anything that you want in this world. And people came to him and said, give me wealth, and he gave them wealth. People came to him and said, give me happiness, and happiness was created through wealth in their mind. And one day there was a beggar that went to him. And you might take this as a fairy tale story, but it actually is, but it's reality from a perspective of your mind and what you think about. And the beggar went to him with a begging bowl, and he said, please fill my bowl with all your wealth. And the king called his viziers and said, fill this man's bowl. And they filled it. And within seconds, the wealth disappeared from the bowl. And the king was frustrated, and he said, fill it again. And they kept filling it. Went on once, went on twice, and the bowl emptied. And finally, the king gave up, and he said, I give up. Ask me for anything you want, but tell me, what is your bowl made out of? What is the content that it's made of? And the beggar purely said, it is made up of the human mind. Because everything that we get, we want a car, we get it. And then what? We want a bigger car. And then what? We want a family to fill the car. Then what? We want a home. So we are never content. We are constantly wanting and wanting and wanting. And that is human society. That's who we are. So the begging bowl is made up of the human mind, and no matter what you fill it, there will always be a new need. And that is what attachment is. When you attach to these things and they are taken from you, and that's what I've learned in the last 12 months, is that when this was taken, I realized that there aren't any constants besides your belief that this will get better, because you will be reunited and you will be with your loved ones. Money is not constant. So when you are running after money instead of the relationships, you find relationships becomes more constant. But when you look after money, you will find you will always be unhappy. So my message is, ladies and gents, attachment, move yourself away from attachments of things that are not constant in this world. Attach yourselves to things that you know and the belief that you have. If you're religious, your belief in God. If you're not religious, your belief in something that purely resonates with you. Because when that is, then that remains constant. About health. When it comes to our health, women, we know we put everyone else first. And when I spoke about negotiable and non-negotiable, health's supposed to be a non-negotiable. And I have to tell you that I've been really bad with that. Health for me has always been a negotiable. If ever I had a toothache, no, I'll see to you tomorrow. Don't worry, it will get better. If I had a bit of a backache, no, don't worry, it's okay, because something else is more important, isn't it? You know, it is Stephen Covey's model of what's important and what's urgent. So things that are urgent but not important normally gets addressed first. Meetings is urgent, but it might not be important, but I have to go for this meeting, yeah? But what's urgent and important becomes crisis mode. Because when we leave it too late, because now it's urgent, when you leave your health too late, it's urgent because now all of a sudden you collapse and somebody needs to rush you to hospital. So now it's urgent, but it's also important. That's crisis mode. But when you are in strategic mode, and that is in the second quadrant of Stephen Covey's model, when you are in that particular mode, it is what is important, but it's not urgent. And because we as women, especially women, because it's not urgent, we tend to put it off. No, I've got something more important to do. I've got to take the kids for their gym classes. I've got to take the kids for piano lessons. Don't worry, I'll see the doctor tomorrow. And that was where health is the one thing that I always negotiated in my life. Remember I mentioned I have a negotiable and non-negotiable? Unfortunately, I've put health in my negotiable tray instead of my non-negotiable. And because of that, ladies and gents, in the last few months, I've had to go through major surgery. I've had to go for an emergency surgery. I imposed on my support network where one day I did collapse and I had to be rushed off to hospital. The point that I'm making is not about me getting sick. The point that I'm making is that I have learned that health needs to go into a non-negotiable. It's about taking care of yourself, and part of taking care of yourself is eating healthily. It is exercising. Personally, I honestly do not like the gym, but then I found things that I did like. I enjoyed walking. I love walking. So I made sure that I go to an area, and I'm very lucky. I live in an area where there's a pier and I can walk quite often. So I've started walking, and I say started because this is new for me. I used to walk in the past, but everything else was more urgent, right? So I stopped, and it impacted my health. So what I would like to say there is think about that model. Don't leave things for last minute where you then get yourself into a situation that I am in now. I'm in recovery at the moment, and alhamdulillah, I must say that surprisingly, I actually am doing very well. But it's also because of the support that I have from friends who keeps pushing, who keep saying, Hawa, have you done your walk today? Hawa, are you going? Oh, I have friends who just pitches up at home and says, Hawa, you've been too much stuck at home. Let's take a walk. Let's go out. Let's do this. So people say you are who you are because of who you associate with. Associate with people that you know is going to push you to your limits, who's not going to be a nice friend. We like to put them in commas. A nice friend, a nice family member who's going to say, it's okay, I can sit with you, I can sorrow with you, but who's actually going to push you beyond. Who's going to say, okay, Hawa, that's enough, get up, let's go. If somebody who's going to get up and say, how are we going out tonight? Are you coming? And when I don't pitch, they actually rag me and tell me, listen, I'm disappointed. So I would like people to associate with others that are going to push them, because I needed that. I was not the one that put health on my agenda. And yes, it might have been a bad thing that I had to be rushed to hospital. It might have been a bad thing that, yes, I had to go for an emergency surgery. But you know what I've learned is that if I don't look after myself, I've got to a point, and some of you might find that this is very sad, because I am basically, besides the love of my friends, and I'm not talking about being lonely, I'm talking about being alone. I have got a point, I have no kids, I have no spouse. I live alone in the UAE, away from the rest of the family. Yet I have family in UAE, but I am not lonely. I am alone. And the point I'm making is that if I don't look after myself, I'm going to put pressure on those that love me, who now, which had to happen, people had to fly over to come and help me and look after me and stay with me. Why? because I was selfish to myself. So ladies and gents, what I want to say to you is put yourself first. Put your health first. I have got to a point now where I've realized that if I don't do that, sooner or later, I will end up not being able to look after myself. And my prayer and my dua every single day in my salah is saying, Ya Allah, do not let me be a burden to anyone. Let me be independent. And the only way I can help myself to do that is to put health as a non-negotiable. So whether it be exercising, whether it be walking, whether it be eating healthily, whether it be helping you to lose your weight, create a strategy. I've learned to create a strategy. So I hate going to the gym. I hate doing anything else. So what I do is I align myself to someone who wants to do it, and I say, right, you come and fetch me, or you come and phone me and push me, because I know I can't do it by myself. Admit it and then find the help for it. Ladies and gents, you've heard my story. I am ready to make the change. I am ready to make health a priority, to put health as not just important, but also urgent for me as well. So don't wait for it to become a crisis. Come and join me. I am actually making the challenge, and I challenge every one of you, my friends, my colleagues, my partners in the UAE, my partners globally. Take a flight, come and join us. Dubai Women's Run taking place on the 5th of November. I will be there on the start line waiting for you to come and join us. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you there.